Right, I'm sitting here with Hayden Cargo, the candidate for the Hamilton West electorate for TOP, or the Opportunities Party. For some reason I have to stop and think about it. It's a bit long-winded. I can see why you abbreviated.
All the other ones are a lot shorter and easier to say, so it's start off with Opportunities Party and then TOP afterwards.
Yeah. So now the essential question I ask everyone is, why should we vote for you guys, effectively?
Okay, so key thing with this is our main politicians haven't made any change. Property has been running out of control for the last 30 years. We have the most expensive property compared to wages in the world, and it just red, blue, green, black, whatever colour, they haven't found an answer on it. And this is essentially why I got involved with TOP.
Okay.
I'm an accountant, and I'm probably in the upper half of society sort of thing.
And you're living in Auckland at the moment, aren't you?
Yeah.
So you couldn't ask for a worse place to live when it comes to housing.
Pretty much. And so I tried to do it right. So me and my wife, we looked around South Auckland. That's the area we worked.
Okay.
Looked at apartments. I built all the stuff you're supposed to do when you're buying your first home. No banks wanted to touch us.
Gee.
This was when Kiwi Build was starting, and I was like, how is this ever going to get across the line if we can't get in? Finally, Kiwi Bank came to play at the end, and we got in. But it came to be like, how's the rest of society?
So that sort of got you thinking about that whole aspect of it.
Pretty much. I hadn't really dealt with too much in politics, sort of thing, and I voted for TOP last time because I felt property was running out of control, and it wasn't fair that people got taxed for running businesses, but if you went and bought some property, you barely paid any tax.
Yeah.
So that was the simple thing. Gareth sold it easy to me, and I thought, that sounds pretty fair to me. So
yeah.
And then, looking to buy a place myself and finding how hard, I was like, oh, this is getting worse. How's the other half and our next generation ever going to get on?
Yeah, because it hasn't yet looked like it's getting better or easier. There is, I think at best, we started to put the brakes on all that.
You say this.
I say started to put the brakes on. So they're not even close to fully on. But
so this is how I, big thing I've been using lately. So actually a few weeks ago, REINZ came out with their median house price increases for the last year.
No one's going to like hearing that, but you go on.
Well, actually everyone loves it because that's the problem with our society. New Zealand's built on housing. And during a recession, our median house price went up 16%.
During a recession, it's true.
So, ain't that insanity? Jobs are on the line at the moment. We're going to have record unemployment coming up. Current things have pushed it out a bit longer.
Yeah.
And housing's still going out of control.
It's interesting that housing's the one thing you buy and flatly expect to make a profit on when you sell it.
Yeah.
Everything else, even I buy a fancy camera and for doing my photography, and I know that if I was to sell that, I'm not going to get what I paid for it. Yes, because of the type of camera, I'm going to get close to that.
Yeah.
But I would never even expect to get more than what I paid for it. Same with cars. No one expects to get more for their car when they sell it than when they bought it. Houses are the only thing, off the top of my head, other than clearly like businesses and things like that, but the only personal thing you buy in life that you honestly expect to get more for when you sell it than what you paid for it.
Yeah.
And I mean more disproportional to things like inflation and things like that.
100%, and that's the wrong part of it in New Zealand because housing's got the best return on investment out of anything.
Yeah.
With the least risk.
But it doesn't produce anything.
That's our problem. Yeah. So a lot of politicians, everyone talk about how we've got low productivity. New Zealand. What this generally means is because we put all our money into housing, our businesses can't innovate and help us produce more stuff.
Yeah, because everyone's investing in property, and the interesting thing with that is the fact that there is still a low supply of houses. And of course, like anything, the price keeps going up while there's low supply. If we had excess houses available, the prices would probably come back down again within reason.
This is the general party argument. Normal parties go build, build, build. Normal economics say supply demand, they'll drive it down. Problem we have here is from the last census, there's 190,000 empty homes in New Zealand.
That many?
Yeah. Some of these are batches, that sort of thing. It's
okay,
fine.
yeah.
Like, and people move in between. That's
Yeah.
fine. Like, that's understandable. People do well. I don't want to stop them from doing that. But we're in a housing crisis, so if you look at that, you're like, crap, what does this say? It says that people are land banking as well, and they understand, if I can buy a house, I actually get probably still a gain without putting anyone in it.
Well,
So the supply's not actually going to work.
if you buy a house and you can sit on it for even as little as 6 months, you're going to make a profit when you sell it. But in the meantime, there's a house that no one's living in.
And we've got like lines for social housing, rent going through the... So usual rent is about 50% of people's pay.
Yeah, if they're lucky enough to have it that low in some cases.
And so, like, we're telling our younger generation, okay, you need to save to get a house. And
Good luck.
at the same
At the moment,
time,
good
yeah.
luck.
So we're telling our younger generation, my generation and below, stop spending out, you need to save, even though you've got nothing to save.
Yeah.
And our houses keep going up.
Yeah.
And also, you need to pay out, like for the older generation, you need to actually still spend that money so businesses can pay the taxes to pay our super.
Yeah.
Like, it just doesn't work.
The thing as a photographer that I find quite hilarious is when you look at rents, like for a house, for a family, not a flat or anything, but an actual house, and you go, that's almost the price of a 50 mil lens. And you go, when you can start, when the value of something is coming so close to an item that your brain tells you is expensive, like camera gear, and you go, you wouldn't get too many lenses for a weekly rent. That's that, because I remember the very first place I rented in Wellington. This is in Wellington.
Yes.
It wasn't far from the city, from the centre of the city. It wasn't out in the suburbs or anything. It was a little, sort of a glorified bed sit. So it was bigger than the standard bed sit, but not massive. Well, it was Wellington. Anything bigger than a caravan's not too bad, actually. But anyway.
They've got their own issues there.
And I was paying $75 a week.
Yeah.
Right? Came to Hamilton, and the first place I rented here was, I think, $85 a week.
Yeah.
And the last place I was at before the one I'm in at the moment was reason I was okay with the rent. It's what you'd sort of expect. But I got a bit of a surprise when I started looking around to get something of the same quality and what I was going to be paying. I realised I was going to be paying a bit more, but I was quite surprised at I'd been living in the place for 13 years. So,
so you get an advantage
there are a number of things that were a bit of a shock. For starters, when I got the place, there wasn't an obsession with references. When I came to get the place I'm in now, there was, here's the form.
Or changed a bit.
We need 3 references, blah, blah, blah. And I go, what? References? I had a little bit of fun with that, but I'll tell you about that later. But it was interesting to see. See, when my father passed away, we sold his place.
Yeah.
Just because of a certain number of circumstances and things, it was easier to sell it with, between me and my sister to sell it than do anything else with it. And I knew what he paid for the place when he got it.
Bought it, yeah.
And we sold. We weren't going to give it away, but we sold it for a fair price. We didn't go and put it on the market and leave it at a high price for months and months and months. But we weren't in a rush to get rid of it.
Yes.
So I knew the real estate agent we were dealing with personally. So we put it at what she recommended plus a bit, so that we could come down. Because I said, I've been in sales in the past, and I know that if you start up a little bit higher, then that weeds out the tyre kickers.
Yes.
It gets the serious people. And then when you get someone who... Because part of our thing was, yes, we were selling a house, but I think in the back of our minds it was Dad's house. So we were wanting it to go to someone reasonable,
Yes.
not someone who was going to just...
Not just make
bulldoze
money out of it.
Yeah, and so we looked at this and we brought the price down a little bit to allow for that. Like when they offered something, and it sold to someone who was, pretty good, and it was a family, going to be a small family home, etc., etc.
Yeah.
But even then, was surprised at how much we could have sold it for if we were prepared to wait for a few more months.
Yeah, so...
Yeah, which is quite shocking, because we could have quite literally, because all rates and everything were paid up, so we could have sat on it for another 6 months if we'd wanted to.
Yeah.
And I later on I
could
talked to the real estate agent and said, can you give me a valuation now on Dad's place? Right?
You don't want to know
And
what
just
it's...
take the information you had. And she laughed, and I go, yeah, I know it's going to be a bit different. But I didn't expect it to be quite as different. It was quite shocking in the space of... Because it was a 12-month anniversary, effectively, of selling it. Right?
Yes.
12-month anniversary of his death, which was about 8 months from when we sold it, right? And I was really surprised how big a difference there was in that short space of time.
So the simple equation over the last 30 years is wages have been going up about 3% a year.
Okay, and house prices have overtaken that?
8% for 30 years.
Whoa. That's like cruising along the motorway at 100 and someone passes you at 150.
So this encourages people to invest in housing more and more.
Yeah.
Like, there's no risk.
And you can sort of understand because when you're investing, you want to make money, so it's understandable that people are going to do that.
I've nothing against anyone doing that. Like, that's the point. If you've got money, you're there to make it. But half of it is that it's not taxed as well.
Well, yeah, don't.
So and as an accountant, all my clients come to me to do stuff just not to pay tax. Even if it's going to cost them more, they've got in their head, I'll rather do this because I pay less tax.
Yeah. And I was quite surprised that I've met someone who makes quite a good living from buying and selling houses, as in like buying them and doing up, not as a commercial agent.
Yeah.
He's just the right rate that he doesn't have to pay tax on anything.
Yes.
Right? And the profit he makes on the sale of a house is quite substantial. And yes, he does a lot of the work himself because it's his hobby. So he buys a place, does it up, etc., and sells it. And 90% of the time, the house is empty until it sells. So even when it's finished, and it might sit for 4 months, it's empty the whole of that time. And
as you talked about supply and demand, now supply of rentals.
Yeah.
If people are looking to sell, so that's got to keep going up because people are taking them off.
I must admit, I had to hold my tongue and not comment because I knew if I went down that rabbit hole, that would be an argument that would go on. Yeah. I know what happens when I voice my opinions on things like that to people, especially if they're just people I sort of know or have met. That can upset people. But yeah, it was interesting to see from someone who actually does that what they do and how much they can make from it, etc., etc. And yes, that's something that does need to be attended to, doesn't it?
It was very interesting in the last debate how Paddy asked both of them, going, do you want houses to go down? And neither of them could go a clear answer straight away. You should just sit there going, Okay, so we don't want housing to go down. We know this. And that's why both of them didn't want to say that, because it'll crash our economy because so much relies on housing.
Well, yeah. It's like nations that grow nothing but coffee and have become so dependent on it. They don't want the price to go down because it screws up their economy.
Correct.
We're similar with houses in the fact that the effect the drop would be quite massive.
And so what we want to do is just stabilise it, but for a generation.
Yeah.
To allow wages to then catch up, so then it becomes a more affordable equation that it's not so many
Yeah.
times the average wage to get the
And
average
it
house.
would be good if things were such that people were more inclined to invest in manufacturing and tech and knowledge-based economies where those economies actually generate jobs and things like that for people.
All the good stuff. So you're
Yeah.
getting to the reason why we just want a tax on housing. So Greens are slightly different. This is all wealth, which doesn't encourage to transfer money from housing to business.
Yeah, because there's also an every year tax on so you'll be paying tax on the house even when you don't sell it.
Correct. So we're the same. It's essentially a rate on the
Okay.
value of the house at a set percentage
Okay.
sort of thing. Both of us, it's just on the equity, so it's not their full house price because the bank actually owns most of it for everyone. So that's not fair.
That because it's like with in business, you're paying your tax on your profit, not on your actual turnover.
Correct.
And needs to be similar, otherwise it's just not going to work.
So our aim is essentially we want to do it's pretty much a 1% tax on your equity property
Just relatively low.
every year.
Yeah.
Sort of thing. This will be offset by our universal basic income, but I'll go into that later.
Okay.
That's another thing. But our whole point of this is to get, maybe 10% of investors to go, I'm now paying a tax, it doesn't work as much for me. I'm going to invest this into businesses, which has the knock-on effect. So Greens are there just to tax to target the wealthy, to give to the poor. Understand it, all fine. It's either part agreeance with it.
Yeah.
Our reason for the tax is to get change of thinking and go, let's get some of our wealthy to go, let's not invest as much in property, let's invest in businesses that will help all of us and that have the knock-on effects of decreasing the demand side of the equation.
Yeah. Also, investing in businesses can affect how much tax you pay because it's dependent on how well the business performs.
Correct.
So, where a house is, you're always going to make a profit on a house. A business may go through periods where more money is being put into the business to progress to the next stage.
Correct.
So therefore, your payable tax may actually be less one year than another, and so
Correct.
on, because you're helping a business grow. And the key thing with that is encouraging businesses to grow, because there is literally no reason why this tiny little country in the middle of the Pacific can't be supplying the rest of the world with a lot of things that we could be doing.
We do great. I'm a big proponent of increasing our research and development grants, sort of thing. Xero, all these great software companies had to go offshore for more money,
Which is a bit of a shame, but yeah.
But how about let's have some different ideas?
Yeah.
Let's get our government to fund them so they don't have to go offshore, and then we can all take the benefits of these big companies, their profits, and go ahead.
So, if you won a seat, the Hamilton West seat,
Yes.
we'll just pretend that.
Yep.
Unfortunately, you're up against Tim McIndoe, and that's going to be a
Had the
tough
question the
fight.
other night. He's very strong, really nice guy.
Oh, yeah.
He invited me to a few events that he didn't have to when he found out that I was running, sort
Yeah.
of thing. Like, he didn't have to. We're kind of competition.
My favourite thing is telling him he belongs to the wrong party. He's a nice person. It's a bit of a shame he's in the wrong party. Just that's a bit of an ongoing joke between us. But So if you did win the seat and you got into Parliament, and you had reasonable say with the party, and you became I don't know.
We want to become Winnie.
And
That's we want to be kingmaker. Imagine how much power, good we could do for the country if were kingmaker.
So what would be the first thing you would be aiming at affecting, like voting on or encouraging other people to vote in the direction that you want them to go in to create change? What would be the first thing you'd want to change?
I'd love to have, I've got a great picture here, but have you heard of the welfare trap?
Yeah.
Okay, not for the viewers and stuff, explain. So our current benefit system is set up so once you start working part-time, you get effective tax rates of about 85-90%.
Yeah, the clawback by social welfare for any beneficiaries earning anything is quite large, and it's a bit of an odds. And it's actually, the other thing is, it's calculated before tax.
Yes.
So if you earn $200, MSD calculate their clawback on that $200.
Yeah.
But you already end up paying like 50 odd bucks to the tax department. So
this is how I talk about 85% tax.
Yeah, there is a point where you can actually be losing money.
So this is our, we've got two key things I love: housing and solving this welfare trap. So if you're on Job Seeker, single person on Job Seeker, you get about $250 a week after tax, do nothing.
Okay.
That's the general sort of thing.
Okay.
Once you work more than 5 hours a week, if you work any hour after that, if you're on minimum wage, you only get $3 net an hour. So this is from 5 to 27 hours, you get $3 net.
Straight.
Who would set up a system like this? Because if you've become unemployed and you're looking to go back to work, most common is going to probably be part-time work. And in this economy sort of thing...
And especially when so many businesses are doing more part-time workers than full-time workers often, especially in the service industry and things like that.
100%.
Where we are sitting at the moment,
hospitality.
Two out of the 3 wait staff here I know are full-time, and 1 is part-time. But you go to McDonald's, and I don't think there are many McDonald's staff that get a full 40-hour week, for instance, or Burger King or any of those.
And so this incentivises work. Everyone talks about, hey, I want our beneficiaries to get off their ass and do some work. Current system says, actually, no, it's better for you not to do anything. Who set this up?
So what's your guys' solution to this?
I talked earlier about our universal basic income. So it's a full tax reform. People yell at me, you're a commie sort of thing. It's quite interesting.
You're not the only one, because there's at least one other party that's suggested the idea of a universal income. Which
everyone's actually talked about it. So Don Brash wanted to bring it in when he was leader of National.
Brash?
Yeah. So this is quite interesting. It's actually
that actually surprises me, to be honest.
It's actually right-wing thinking.
Okay.
With some left-wing heart behind it.
See, I never would have thought of that as right-wing thinking, because it just doesn't strike me off the top of the... Yeah, that's what it... Yeah, okay.
I've lost it in my head, but one of the Republican presidents in America, I think... I can't remember. So was an hour away from bringing it in America. And you're thinking the most Republican right-wing, don't help out the poor person sort of thing.
No, if I'd seen a comment like that on social media, I would have gone, that's a hoax.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
So the reason behind it, and the whole thing, is that it cuts government spending back, because you can decrease the reason for wins. They don't have to police giving out this money anymore. If you can go, everyone gets $250 per week, no questions asked. Straight, you sign up with your ID, your bank account's done, boom, done.
Well, yeah, because that is a point. There is a lot of money wasted in the MSD in policing what they're doing.
We want these institutions to provide the proper social services that they need.
Yeah.
Budgeting, advice, mental health care, all those good stuff that we need. We don't want them chasing up that people are going to interviews and all that sort of...
They should effectively be there to help those who want to do something. And if there are people who want to sit on their ass and do nothing, go, well, that's fine. And personally, I think, because I've seen people who have been on a benefit and who have wanted assistance to progress, either find some training or to find out the best way to get working in the industry they want to work in.
Yes.
And they've had to struggle to get to sit down with someone who can give them that guidance and assistance, put them in contact with the relevant people, even doing voluntary work to start with to get into an industry that they want to get into. they've had to struggle to get that help.
100%. And
When you think that the logical thing would be, if someone comes to you and says, "Oh, this is what I want to do in life. Can you help me accomplish this?" You'd think MSD would jump at the opportunity to give someone the assistance.
So it's really interesting as universal basic income, because Labor looked at it, Grant Robinson talked about it during this, they've looked at it, National looked at it, and so have Greens. So it was the Greens part of their thing for a long time.
Yeah.
But for some reason, they could have completely boxed us out and gone, we're going to take a UBI into this, because this is pretty much core top policy.
Yeah.
But they've gone what's called a guaranteed minimum income. GMI is their thing.
Okay.
And it's just an extension of the same welfare track. Except that instead of that $250 starting point on job seekers, it goes up to $325. And you can work now 8 hours, for 8 or 10 hours a week before this welfare track kicks in again.
Okay.
So they want to help the worst off in our society.
Because the logical thing would be to treat it like the pension, where you get the pension. Because I remember talking about this with Dad on the thing of wealthy people getting the pension. You get the pension regardless, but you pay income tax on your total income, be that work or shares you've got invested or everything. And that certain people over a certain earning capacity with their investments and stuff potentially end up paying back their entire pension in tax, plus more.
Perfect. You've ticked the... That's exactly it. Well,
I did that without reading anything on your website.
We already have a universal basic income. It's pension. It's not means tested or anything. It's already in place.
So effectively, you're looking at spreading that through the whole of the people that need any form of assistance, and saying, and then if you earn on top of that, you pay whatever income tax you pay based on your total income.
Correct.
And where the income comes from, it's irrelevant. You just pay a tax on the income, and you're not, any assistance you get's not taken away if you earn this amount or that amount, and it's just across the board.
Correct.
That's nice and simple, actually.
And so we're introducing a flat tax of 33%.
Okay.
Everyone's like, oh my God, this is high. But because you've got this UBI, this $250 a week already, it makes it actually really progressive. It actually creates your first 39,000 is tax-free, essentially. Because the 250 times 52 is 13,000, and then gross that up is 39,000.
Oh, okay.
Before you have to pay a cent, your net amount to the government, it's 39,000 is tax-free, and that's about the living wage.
Okay.
It works out pretty, and then it's nice and simple. ID doesn't have to go, you've got a refund or a tax to pay at the end of the year for most of our workers. It's all flat tax.
And
gets rid of the secondary tax and
now
all
with
that
all
crap.
that tax being automatically calculated by IRD, it gets a little bit different if you're working for yourself, of course. But
that's 80% of pretty much taxpayers, and it's all done. You don't need to think, what am I going to get on the second wage or something sort of thing. Like it's just...
It'd also make it easier for people who want to work for themselves or want to become artists or whatever else, because they may go for months without earning a dime, and then when they do earn something, they're not having to... Yes, you're effectively self-employed, so you then file your tax return, etc., but it would make the whole taxation bit a lot simpler. They don't... Because one of the worst things I've heard was someone who decided to A, become a creative, and B, be honest to work and income. She found that the whole process was complicated because their system works on you being paid an hourly rate.
Yes.
Their whole system doesn't understand the concept of spending 2 weeks doing a bunch of paintings, then doing an exhibition, and having all the and the other thing is having all the costs taken off, because in business it's turnover minus costs is your income.
Yes.
Right?
Correct.
Work and income MSD don't understand that. They just see, oh, you got paid 10,000 this week. Bang, that's it. They don't understand that 10,000 covers the last 3 or 4 or 5 weeks at least. And the expenses involved in that.
100%. So this, as accountant, I absolutely love this. I'm like, just simplification. Makes
Yeah.
it easy for absolutely everyone. And as you said about people setting up businesses, great time.
Yeah.
Now, and so you've got the option of, I could sit at home, be on job seekers currently,
Yeah.
or I'm going to actually do something, I'm going to set up a business, and you don't make any money for a bit of time, but you get nothing. Because you're doing something.
With things like COVID happening, if you're unemployed and you're just stuck at home and you go, I can make some masks for people and sell them and stuff like this, you effectively could start some sort of a cottage industry.
And you've got a minimum amount to fall back on.
Because the one thing I've found that I find annoying with in particular middle income and upper income people is they hate on unemployed and assume that they all sit around doing nothing. I know a number of unemployed people who actually do all sorts of things. Yes, a lot of them are not earning money, but they're involved in their community. They're involved in all sorts of things.
You keep ticking off the stuff. Have you read our website? So UBI also pays volunteer work, essentially. You're getting $250 if you're a volunteer out there, or you're at home looking after the kids. You're getting paid for your contribution to society.
Well, that's interesting.
It's a whole. There's so much things, and I just love it. It's simple.
And the one thing I say to anyone who watches these, and I have no idea how many people watch them, and I don't really care how many people watch them, but anyone who's watching my videos, I do, at election time I say, actually take the trouble to go and research the policies about the different parties and look at what they're doing and see if they fit in with someone's lifestyle or what they want in the direction of the country, rather than just voting on personalities or whatever. Go and look, like, for instance, you were just telling me that I was ticking quite a few boxes on your stuff, and I haven't even read your website, to be honest, but, go and look at that, and like, if there's a lot of things on your list of policies and stuff that actually tick boxes for you, well, then that generally should indicate who you should be voting for.
The things like Vote Compass have been great. So a lot of people have come out and gone, crap, Top's my one or two, what am I lying to?
Yeah.
And I had no idea. I'm just like, yep, there's a reason why I'm running for this. I got part of it because it aligns with me.
Yeah.
I went down to a Grey Power meeting in Tokoroa.
That would be entertaining.
I was like, this is going to be interesting, sort of thing. I had run out of time to really practice my speech, sort of thing. I was nervous as hell. Thought I had done a horrible speech. Had, I reckon, 10 out of the 60 people say they're going to vote for me. About half of them because they had checked out Vote Compass and had come out as their top person.
Oh, well, thanks very much for your time.
Cheers,
And
mate,
good luck in the election. And, it's going to be an interesting election because there's a number of things that make it interesting, especially if people are taking the time to investigate who they are voting for and effectively match what you want in life, what you want New Zealand to look like, and what different parties are saying.
Well said, perfectly
If you don't
said.
match those together, you end up voting for the wrong person.
A lot of people I talk to vote for who their parents voted for.
Yeah.
So have a look. This is going to be the biggest election kind of for a long time. Amount of money that's going to be spent after this election.
Yeah,
let's get it right.
And it's interesting. Yes, it's had its issues with COVID and all that, but thanks anyway.
Cheers, mate. Thanks for having me.
Cool.